Thank you so much, Mr. Speaker. In the last 2 months alone, reports indicate that nearly 3,000 Venezuelans have been jailed and 69 have been killed by the regime. Peaceful protests have led Venezuelan strongman Nicolás Maduro to issue a decree to convene a constituent National Assembly, what he calls a Constituyente, in order to rewrite Venezuela's constitution. But as we all know, Mr. Speaker, Maduro is fooling no one. This is just another attempt to undermine and discredit the current democratically elected legislature in the National Assembly. Another attempt of a power grab which seeks to consolidate more power around the executive and possibly rewrite the Constitution to favor only one individual, Nicolás Maduro. Another attempt to pull a fast one over some in the international community who may make the mistake and call this weak and dangerous gesture progress. But we know the truth. This is not progress. In fact, this is a major setback to democracy. Maduro is once again trying to delay the free, fair, transparent, and democratic elections in Venezuela under the supervision of credible international observers. Making matters worse, Goldman Sachs is also adding to the Venezuelan people's misery. Last week, the investment bank bought $2.8 billion in Venezuelan bonds, not only providing the Maduro regime a lifeline in the short term, but saddling the Venezuelan people with crippling debt repayments in the long term. When, not if, a democratically elected president comes to the Venezuelan people, they will be stuck with the bill and face the responsibility to pay for this debt. With so many Venezuelans lacking the basic goods, including food, many have taken to calling these bonds hunger bonds, as the regime lines its own pockets and the Venezuelan people continue to suffer. This is unconscionable, Mr. Speaker. Venezuela's pervasive corruption means any infusion of cash, like Goldman Sachs, will not benefit the people of Venezuela who desperately need it. Instead, Maduro and his thugs fill their coffers and use the cash to abuse the Venezuelan people and use it to stay in power. Venezuela's state-owned oil company, PDVSA, was already sanctioned in the year 2011 for helping Iran avoid its own sanctions, and Venezuela's Tarek al-Assami, second in command to Maduro, was sanctioned by our U.S. Treasury Department early this year under the Foreign Narcotics Kingpin Designation Act. Can you imagine? The regime's long-standing ties to drug trafficking and other illicit activities are only now being exposed, and U.S. businesses should be avoiding deals with Maduro like the plague. But the private sector is not the only one aiding the Maduro regime. Sadly, the U.S. government is also helping prop up the regime. How? By allowing purchases of Venezuelan oil. This keeps Maduro afloat. In 2016, Venezuela remained the third largest foreign crude oil supplier to the United States, behind Canada and Saudi Arabia. In 2016, oil exports from Venezuela were valued at $10.5 billion. During the first 3 months of 2017, value of oil exports from Venezuela to us here in the United States was already worth $3.5 billion. Financial transactions like these made to Maduro or any other despotic regime should be prevented. We have a moral obligation to respect the suffering needs of the Venezuelan people and help alleviate this suffering.